So just so you know, this is actually where Rambo was filmed, or First Blood, with Sylvester Stallone. So yeah, Hope is only about 20 minutes away from me. Well, they sure as hell forgot when Rambo came to town.
Morning. You visiting somebody around here? You know, wearing that flag on that jacket, looking the way you do. You're asking for trouble around here, friend.
Okay, lest we forget. So just so you know, this is actually where Rambo was filmed, or First Blood. So it's a nice little drive. It's a beautiful little place, actually. So if you're driving through town, driving through Agassiz, driving through that area, it's actually a nice place to come visit. Train the muscles, not the joints. So welcome back to Natural Bodybuilding Mountain. And I want to share with you a couple tips, a couple tricks, a couple things that might help you on your natural bodybuilding journey. So a lot of times people want to know how to gain mass, because that's the biggest problem. Natural bodybuilders have a real struggle gaining massive amounts of muscle. MAM training, for those of you that don't know, massive amounts of muscle, like a mountain. Massive amounts of mountainous muscle. MAM training. The first thing you got to consider is connection to your physical body, connection to your body. Now this sounds all esoteric, it sounds crazy at first, but as you continue to train, you're going to notice that there's going to be more and more connection between you and your body.
Frankie's my hero! Frankie's my hero!
At first it starts like just feeling a little bit of pain. You feel a little bit of a burn in the muscle when you train it. Maybe you feel a burn in a general area. Maybe it's not even one specific muscle, but it's a general area. And as you keep training, that awareness will become honed, where you can feel the fibers themselves contracting, and you'll feel certain experiences which then start to resonate with muscle growth. So, case in point, my brother and I would train, and sometimes you'd have these training sessions where you go into higher reps than ever before with a certain weight. Maybe it's a heavy weight that you only got 10 reps with, or 12 reps, and then finally you can get past that 15 to 17 or 18 rep threshold. And as you get past that threshold, there's a certain experience in the muscle. Sometimes there's this burning type tearing feeling, but in a positive way, not in a negative way. And we would notice that there's a certain amount of mass growth that would come right after that experience happening. So as you become more aware of what you're up to, more aware of what you're doing, and more aware of the different types of experiences of training, you start to put together positive feelings and experiences and negative ones to watch out for and ones to be positive about, ones to actually strive for. And so this is a very important thing on your natural bodybuilding journey, because if you don't know the difference between the two, or if you don't build that awareness, you're going to sometimes follow stupid templates like some of the ones that are given on YouTube by some people out there, and you're going to ignore what's going on in your joints, you're going to ignore the negative pains, and then you're going to snap something for sure, or hurt yourself. Now, can you avoid injuries altogether forever? Well, most people can't. It's a pretty tough thing to do when you're pushing yourself to the edge, but ultimately what you want to do is push yourself enough that you give yourself a chance to learn from your mistake, not a chance to just snap something and then never train again, right? I mean, some injuries you just can't come back from. So that's the first thing I'd say.
Let's do it from the back now.
Oh, from the back now. People coming. Allow yourself to grow in awareness. Now, second of all, don't be afraid to think outside the box. Maybe I should be doing this differently. Perhaps sitting down, or maybe like this. Innovation, that's what it's all about. Do the basic lifts, follow programs, find out what the truth is with these major lifts, like doing bent over rows, doing squats, doing the deadlifts, doing, you know, and it might be your version of deadlift. So what I'm saying is this is where you have to think outside the box. You cannot just do the lifts the way it's prescribed forever if your body is showing you signs that it's rejecting that technique. Maybe it's showing you injuries or problems, or you just leave the gym just feeling shattered all the time, but you never grow. It's only your joints that are taking the beating. So this is something to really pay attention to, and that goes back to the first rule, grow in your awareness. Now that said, as your awareness grows, you'll start to cater some of the techniques of your exercises so that you're hitting the muscle groups you want to hit most efficiently. So yeah, sometimes it's the best possible thing to stretch those front delts out when you're training front delts. But say you want to train chest, or say you want to train your back, maybe it's not a good idea to stretch the rear delts out so much. Maybe if you overstretch them, the rear delts hit failure long before your back does, and therefore your back doesn't grow. Like we see with some YouTubers, where they say you have to stretch out all the way, otherwise you're not natty. Meanwhile, their back development is that of a 12-year-old girl. Ooh, that wasn't very nice. If you don't have back development, and you're overstretching the movements with back training, there's a possibility that maybe you need to change the movement a little bit in order to get those gains. One thing I see natural bodybuilders do, they see somebody on Instagram in contest shape, they see somebody getting ready for a show, they see somebody pre-contest and all this kind of stuff, and they're like, oh my God, bodybuilding is about being lean. And all they do is just get obsessed with being lean. So they starve themselves to death. And in the process, they basically destroy any ability to gain muscle because they're constantly telling the body that it is in need of calories. It doesn't have enough protein, doesn't have enough carbs to recover. So protein and carbs every meal, 5-6 times a day. And if you're naturally a really, really overweight person, then yeah, maybe you need to just have a higher amount of protein to carb ratio and fats, right? You don't want to be over bulking with carbs and fats, of course. But if you're at a decently lean percentage, like 10%, 12%, 13%, then go nuts. Just make sure you eat 5 or 6 times a day. It's already got some pepper and garlic. Let's see if I massacred this. See, it's about medium. I like mine medium rare. I cooked it a little bit too much, but yeah, medium rare is good. I gotta eat a bunch of protein to pump up again. Because you'll notice sometimes after a workout you flatten out. So that's a sure sign that you need some more food in you. So this brings to mind, don't forget to eat. Make sure you're eating protein and carbs or protein and fats every meal, depending on what type of diet you find works best for you, and that's going to take a little bit of experimentation. But at first, protein, carbs, every meal, 5-6 meals a day. Make sure you're getting at least a gram per pound of body weight of protein in. So a gram of protein per pound of body weight, that's a good place to start, and then from there you can start fine-tuning that whole process. But that's what I found worked for me, and that's what I find works for a lot of people, is to start there and then to fine-tune your diet from there. But this is a good place to start and a good foundation in order to place your diet upon. From there then, you train hard and see what happens. Just find out. But once you start training hard, at least if you have enough food, you have the chance to put on muscle mass. And that's really what this is about. You need the food to put on muscle. So many people think they can just breathe and put on muscle. That's not going to happen. You need to have the raw materials in order to make the house. Well, it's the same thing with muscle. Muscle's made up of protein. So if you don't have the protein, you're not going to basically make the house. And you also need the carbs in order to fuel the protein or the energy source. Sometimes it can be fats. But if you have the energy source, then you're going to be able to have the energy in the gym in order to break down that muscle tissue and then replenish it with the protein in order to build muscle again. A random bike rider just went by.
Okay, buddy. Talk to you later.
Take care, bro. And in other news, this guy said this was not his bike. Who is that man? What is he doing in my forest? And why is he here? If you're not feeling energetic in the gym, then you need to address your diet and your sleep. Those two things are very important, which is my next thing I'm going to say. Ah, crap. Don't be afraid to sleep. There's a lot of people that are sleeping 4 hours, 5 hours a night. They're trying to do 10 or 1,000 different things or whatever, and then they're not recovering. Sleep is a very important thing, but don't be afraid to sleep. So long story short, don't mix up getting lean with bodybuilding specifically, although getting lean for periods of time is part of bodybuilding. Of course, cutting is part of it when you're getting ready for the stage, you're getting ready for a photo shoot, but that is not where the majority of your gains come from. It's mostly from feeding the body, growing the muscle, and then from there, skimming off the fat, right? That's it. So don't starve your gains away. I made a video on this, don't starve your gains, but it really is important. I see it all the time because people get so obsessed with having ab veins or something like that, that they never give themselves a chance to even grow muscle. If you're undernourished, your body will not put on muscle. It does not want to put on muscle. It's the last thing the body wants to do, because that means it's going to burn more calories just when you're sitting down in the park, like I am right now. Like bodybuilding busking, burning calories. The more muscle you have, the more calories you burn just by sitting on your ass. That's why I like this sport. I like to sit a lot. It's good. Cardio is a great thing. It can increase blood flow. It can help you have more endurance in your workouts, your weight training workouts. It can help you actually recover. It can help you actually recover in between sets. But that said, don't make cardio the priority of your training if you're trying to be a bodybuilder, if you're trying to put on muscle mass, because cardio causes the body to adapt in a different way. So if you're gonna do cardio, especially if you're a medium type of metabolism type person, or fast metabolism especially, do not do super intense cardio for long periods of time, because then the body will preferentially treat that type of movement or that type of exercise, and it will adapt to that first and foremost rather than bodybuilding. So this is why a lot of times I avoided a lot of sports when I was competing. I avoided doing too much cardio because I found that I was weaker and not as strong in the gym. Now some of you guys out there, hey, I'm strong, I'm whatever, doesn't matter what kind of cardio I do. You know what? That's true for maybe one or two people, but for the majority, most people, if they do long distance running, like say they're running 20K a day, I guarantee you their squat is not going through the roof more so than before. You know what I'm saying? That they're not usually at the elite bodybuilding level if they're putting all their energy into the cardio like that. It's just the rule of sport specific training. That's just training 101, right? So don't destroy your gains by doing too much activity if you have a choice. Some of you guys are doing some pretty physical jobs and stuff, and there's ways to work around that, but the bottom line is that don't make cardio your priority. Make the weight training your priority, and the cardio just a way of helping with the recovery. So cardio that has a heart rate of 100 to 120 beats per minute, that's usually pretty good. But if you're doing like 160, 170 beats a minute and you're going for 30, 40 minutes super intense, you're gonna burn off muscle, and that's what happened to me with hockey. Now, this also brings me to the next point, which is avoid high velocity, high risk of injury sports. Okay, where is he? Where is he? Come on. Come out wherever you are. Come on, man. I gotta ask you something. And there we go. Wonder if there's any Sasquatches out here. Any Sasquatch eye that needs some ass kicking. I need a hobby. Everybody needs a hobby, and I just think it might be a good hobby to start kicking some Sasquatch ass. After all, I have all these muscle gains. What's the point of having muscle gains if you don't do something constructive with it? I think it's a pretty low risk venture to fight things with claws, sharp teeth, and basically several 100 to 1,000 pounds more body weight than I am. I mean, it's a challenge. It's worth taking. I'm a good old Canadian kid. Why wouldn't I do this? I'll just apply a few of the jiu-jitsu moves that I learned by watching some MMA fights. I'll just put the old Sasquatch or perhaps another wild animal in a triangle choke and put him to sleep. Then this is the thing I had to learn the hard way. After I stopped competing, I started playing hockey, and that's how I dislocated a shoulder, tore a rotator cuff, did all sorts of damage to my body. I even herniated a disc in my back by going to the boards and hyperextending. All these things happen with these high velocity sports. So if your main goal is to be a natural bodybuilder, you have to make sure that you conserve your joints and your tissues. So if you're taking high risk maneuvers like, you know, stunt driving or, you know, skateboarding or, you know, doing high-end BMX racing or gymnastics or something like that, there's always that possibility you're going to land wrong or tweak something, and that's going to destroy your training or your ability to train, right? Don't forget to try to get stronger. Sounds simple enough, but there's a lot of people that are, once again, watching the guys that are ready for contest who are doing mostly pumping type movements and high reps and simple isolations just to get the blood moving. But a lot of times they're not understanding when they're watching these people that these people also train other ways in order to gain the mass in the first place. Let's just get this straight. Anytime you challenge a muscle, yes, there's a chance that it will grow. No problem. But if you can gain in strength with the compound movements, there's no question that it is a greater bang for your buck as far as stimulation of the overall body, right? So when you're stimulating lots of muscles at once, you are going to be able to push the body or stimulate the system into growing muscle. So don't get too obsessed with the ego movements, you know, those chest flies and stuff in front of the mirror and stuff. These are all good, but again, there's going to be a different weak link with each movement, and sometimes if you concentrate too much in isolations and you avoid compounds altogether or you avoid gaining in strength, you're going to be missing out on some gains. At first, when you're starting, you definitely want to be using the compound lifts because you're using the most amount of muscles possible in a given lift. Now, at some point, you're going to fine tune this process. You're going to find out some compound lifts work for you, some compound lifts don't work for you, or some compound lifts actually work maybe some small muscle group like I talked about before, more so than maybe the major muscle groups you want to hit. But at first, it's a good general rule for you to start with the compound lifts. Therefore, you're getting the basics down. You're getting the basic movement patterns down. You're getting the basic coordination down, and you're getting your best bang for the buck, for the most part, for the effort and time spent in the gym. So don't try to become an exercise specialist right away. Just use the compounds and then start to fine tune from there. And you're going to start to find your groove. And like I said, some compound lifts are going to work great for you. And some of them you're going to find out that you're better off replacing them with maybe another lift that's better suited to your body, or maybe better suited towards the body part that you want to hit. Mountain. Now, when I say don't forget to put on strength, don't forget to work on your strength, I'm not talking about just the 1 rep max, which I think is pretty much a useless technique in the long run. Doing 1 rep maxes is really, it works more against you than for you. So I wouldn't recommend ever doing 1 rep maxes, although it is an ego pleaser. It's definitely an injury causer in a lot of cases. So don't do the 1 rep maxes unless of course you're a powerlifter and that's what you're specializing in. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get stronger by doing 1 rep maxes, although it is included in competition. I think you're better off getting strong in all the rep ranges, or at least all the ones that have to do with strength and strength endurance, right? So any rep range that lasts within about 1.5 minutes is going to help you bodybuilding wise. So maybe you have a set that lasts 10 seconds, maybe you have a set that lasts 20 seconds, maybe you have a set that lasts 30 seconds. But any one of these sets are going to have different rep ranges, and get stronger in all of them. If you can do 225 for 10 reps and then you can do it for 12 reps, guess what? That's a strength gain. So I'm going to encourage you to change up the rep ranges and to gain in strength in all of them, or most of them, not just the 1 rep max. The 1 rep max is more a dangerous thing, and you know, in the long run, you're better off avoiding 1 rep maxes. And if you're going to increase your strength in a 5 rep max or 6 rep max and 10 rep max and 15 rep max and 20 rep max. That's where you want to do it. So this is something that a lot of people misunderstand. They think that they have to do the 1 rep max in order to gain in strength, and that's absolutely not true. And sometimes through mixing up those reps, which is my next point, always mix up the reps. Don't stick with the same reps all the time. Mix up the reps. You will notice that you'll be able to shatter barriers and shatter plateaus much more effectively than if you stick to 1 rep range all the time. You'll stagnate. I guarantee it. If you stick to 1 rep range all the time, you're going to stagnate, and it happened to me lots of times. And it's good to challenge yourself by stepping out of that, which is why some people pyramid train, which is why some people, they'll do heavy days or they'll do light days or they'll do medium days. This is why I strongly encourage you to do this. I do have these things outlined in my training programs on my website, so make sure you check those out. But that's really it. I mean, mixing up the rep ranges is a very effective way to hit the muscle different ways, and to also stimulate the nervous system and to gain in strength and strength endurance at the same time, which is critical for bodybuilding. Another tip is to not be afraid to use machines. The Terminator is more effective at terminating. No shit, machines are better than free weight. Free weights suck. Free weights are for humans. There are a lot of exercise purists out there, and they will insist that compound, free weight, balance exercises are the best possible thing you can do. And as a general rule, this might be true in some cases, but it's not true all the time. And so don't be afraid to try different machines, because some machines will yield big results for you because they will definitely center in the tension on those areas that are possibly not getting hit enough with the free weight versions of those exercises. So that's why you see a lot of professionals, they use a lot of machines, not because the machines are safer, but sometimes they're just more effective for hitting certain spots. Because like I've said before, if you spend a lot of your energy just trying to balance, there are certain muscles that may not be getting hit because you're so busy trying to use the balance muscles. So sometimes the prime movers actually come into play more so when the machine is stabilizing the movement for you, and therefore the prime mover can actually hit a deeper level of failure, therefore growing more. So don't be afraid to integrate some machines in your training. Sometimes they can be extremely effective. Mountain. Do a training program for 2, 3, 4 months, and then try something new. Try something different. In the old days, back when the dinosaurs were roaming the earth and I was doing my training programs and I was lifting weights for competition and getting ready, I would get too attached sometimes to one way of training. And it would take a lot of effort on my part to break that pattern. But ultimately, I did find that there were certain training programs that worked better for me than other training programs that were supposedly the norm. I found that higher frequency training, like the 2-day split or sometimes whole body workouts, worked better for me than doing the standard bro split. So only through experimentation will you find out which one really works for you. I do feel that natural bodybuilders tend to do better with slightly higher frequency, lower volume type of program. But hey, I'm open to variation and everybody's different, but be open to trying new programs, and it's going to help you find out what really works for you, and this is going to speed track your progress. The other thing is each program also works different muscle fibers more so, or works different parts of your system, and one program will highlight one weak link, whereas another program might highlight a different weak link. Only through addressing these different weak links will you become overall better as a natural bodybuilder, and this is the whole goal. If you are open-minded, you're going to make more progress on this path than if you're closed-minded and you get stuck in a rut just doing the same thing because that's what's supposedly done. Now this next tip should be obvious. You have to make your training a priority in your life. So the first priority every day is to make sure your food is made, your sleep is good, and at the same time you get your training in. And you'd be amazed at how many people in my life that I've met that want world-renowned, elite natural bodybuilding physiques. But instead of going to the gym, they say, hey, my favorite TV show's on TV right now. I gotta watch that. Or I gotta vacuum my house instead of show up to the gym. Or I should really put my dishes away. Basically, they'll make a 10-minute chore into an hour-and-a-half long chore and basically avoid the gym. So they come up with a bunch of excuses to avoid the gym. So if you're avoiding the gym, this is the big obstacle that you have to overcome. You have to basically say, come hell or high water, you're going to get to the gym. That's what you have to decide. You have to decide that that's your priority. And when you decide that something's your priority, you don't let excuses get in your way. You say, okay, that's it, I'm showing up. This level of willpower is necessary if you want to establish an elite physique or an elite achievement in any realm. And it's not just applicable to bodybuilding, of course, but it's applicable to any sport or to anything. I mean, or any art. I mean, if you're a musician, but you don't make time to practice, then how are you going to become a better musician? I'm getting a little bit too big. Kind of want to make that fighting the Sasquatch fair. It's kind of not fair if I fight a Sasquatch if I get any bigger. So I think I'll skip the gym for a few months, maybe a year or two. Make it a fair fight for the poor guy. I don't like picking on puny Sasquatches. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I'll skip the gym today. So yeah, don't let crappy little excuses get in the way of you becoming a mountain. Now finally, I want to say this. There's no one way to do an exercise. There are multiple ways to do each exercise, and depending on the way that you are built will depend on which technique really applies to you. Be the mountain. So you got to tell your biceps that. Be the mountain. Be the mountain. For instance, with bicep curls, I talk to people all the time. External rotation really works great for hitting that brachii, but some people, when they go closer in grip, they actually hit the biceps even better, right? There goes John Rambo. He's got lots of stuff, and he's skateboarding. It's crazy. I don't know if you can see him. Don't be afraid to do the exercise differently than what is prescribed, or find out how your body reacts. If you're squatting, do wide stance squats, do low bar squats, do high bar squats, do front squats. Try the different techniques out and see where do you feel those forces and how they play out. And there's going to be a very strong chance that one technique is going to be probably preferential to your body type more so than maybe another. You might want to go back and forth, but there's going to be one or two techniques where you feel you hit the belly of the muscle itself. You're not just hitting the joints. The joints aren't the weak link. You don't feel the insertion points of the joints quite so much, and you're feeling actually the muscle belly take the majority of the stimulus. So I hope this helps you become a mountain. And thanks a lot for watching. And if you need to get hold of me, just go to naturalbodybuilding.com. And thanks a lot to the Patreon supporters, and take care for now. All right, John Rambo, where are you? Where'd he go? Rambo, where are you? Police must have got him already.